Hey everybody, Dave here with Wags Automotive, and we're still working on this little 350. I've been doing some cleaning on it, so let's take a look at it real quick, and then we're going to pull off the oil pan and the timing cover and see what we got under there. Who knows? Is it a 2-bolt main? Is it a 4-bolt main? Is it a Corvette engine? Or maybe just a standard passenger car or truck engine? Who knows? Let's find out, but let's look at it real quick first. All right, get this off the mount here. And so I got all the pistons cleaned up. They look really great, as you can see. Real nice looking, nice and clean. Of course, you know, you can see the part number there. I showed you the video that these are Speed Pro pistons, which are really good pistons. But I just been wire brushing it, cleaning it up, wiping down the oil pan stuff. I didn't wire brush any of that because that's sheet metal, but I wire brushed the block to get the loose paint off of it so I can repaint it and make it look nice. But that's kind of what it looks like. Again, this side here, you know, all 4 pistons, they came out real nice. And if you want to know how to do that, I just used a little toothbrush wire brush and some carburetor cleaner, and I'd scrub it first with the wire brush to get most of the carbon off, and then whatever stuck, I'd spray it with a little carburetor cleaner and scrub it again and that's what they look like. I mean, they came out real nice looking, so it looks great. I'm real happy with it. All right, now let's flip this baby over and see what we got. Okay, get you guys in here where you can see what's going on. So, yeah, let's pull the pan and we'll see what happens. All right, let me flip it over. There we go. Okay. All right, take these pan bolts off real quick. That won't take very long. Oh, my brother brought something up to me yesterday. How many of you guys know what this is called right here? You know what this is? Make sure you can see it. Yep, you can see it. Okay. What's this called? Most young mechanics have no clue what this is or have ever even seen one before. So what is this? Tell me. Comment below. What's it called? Comes in handy. I tell you what, I love them. Of course, I can use power tools, but you know, I've always liked to do things by hand because it just gives me a sense of satisfaction knowing that I put something together with my hands, and it helps. To me, it's kind of a little bit of a workout, I guess, you know, to work with hand tools. I mean, yeah, I could grab a little impact wrench or whatever and zip all these bolts off, you know, and have them off in no time flat. But I guess I just like the manual part of it, you know? Kind of like a guy working with wood, you know? He takes a piece of wood and he whittles it out, you know, makes it into something special. He has to build it and put it all together, you know, and makes a birdhouse or a dresser or a shelf or whatever. And when he's done, he can stand back and look at his handiwork and be proud of himself. So I guess that's kind of why I use hand tools. People always ask me all the time, why don't you just grab a impact wrench and zip those bolts off there? And the other problem is you never know if a bolt's going to stick when you take it off, and you never know how tight you're getting it when you put it on. So the chances are a lot less of breaking bolts off doing them by hand, you know? I don't know. It's just what I like, but, you know, of course, the chances of these bolts breaking off are 0 because this engine has only got a few thousand miles on it. So, you know, that's not going to happen here, but there's plenty of times when I've had rusted bolts that I was taking off and I wanted to try to maintain them or keep them, not break them. And doing it by hand, you can feel, you know, whether they're going to go or not. And if you know what you're doing, you can get most rusty bolts out without breaking them. So, all right, here we go. So what do you guys think? 2-bolt, 4-bolt, what do you think? I don't know, let's find out. Here we go. Ta-da! Well, what do we got? We got a 2-bolt main engine, okay? If it was a 4-bolt main engine, the first one and the last one would be 2 bolts. And these 3 center ones, this one, and this one, would all be 4-bolt mains. They'd have an extra set of bolts out here. But no big deal. There's nothing wrong with a 4-bolt main engine. They're good engines. I'm sorry, 2-bolt main engines. There's plenty of them on the street, and there's plenty of them still out there. So yeah, I'm happy. Looks good. Oh, you know what? I just saw something. Hey, look at that. Here, let me get this off the mount and show you guys something I just noticed. Check this out. So if you look, so their pistons are down here. And of course, they're nice and clean. They look brand new, real nice looking. Of course, they are brand new. But if you look at these rods, see how this one here has been ground on both sides? That one there's been ground on both sides. And, yep, that one, and that one, and that one, and even, yep, that one's been ground. That one's been ground. Now, this one here is almost flat. So what that tells me is this motor has been balanced, okay? So someone took the time to balance this engine when they built it, which is an extra step, extra cost, cost extra money. But what they do when they balance is they take one rod, or they take all the rods and they weigh them. And the one that weighs the least amount, which is probably this one because it's got very minimal grinding on it, they match all the other rods. They grind them off until they all weigh exactly the same. And that helps balance out the rotating mass of the engine. So, and they usually balance the crankshaft too. I'm not seeing any markings on this crankshaft that indicate that it's been balanced, but it may be that they put a new crankshaft in it that was already balanced from the factory. I don't know, but it's just interesting that so this engine, not only is it new, it's been balanced, and got the performance parts in it. It's been balanced, which is great. And here's another thing I want to point out to you guys. M55 HV, this is a Melling high volume pump. HV stands for high volume. I've used these pumps in all my motors for a long time, and they're really good really good pumps. They give you good capacity, good oil pressure. So it's got a high volume pump in it, which is great. And if you look right here, the pickup has been welded to the pump, which normally they braze them, but somebody welded it. But I mean, that's okay. It's not moving. It's not going anywhere. There's been issues with these pickups falling off into the pan. And of course, then you don't have, your pickup down into the oil, and your pickup's all the way up here. So, if the pickup falls off, then you're not going to, you could lose oil pressure and grenade the engine. So that's good that that's welded on. It's not going anywhere, and it's got a high volume pump. That's great. It's been balanced. So let's, you know what? Oh, and another thing, you can see the rods are marked. That one's number 2. I don't know. Let's see. That one's number 4. That one's number 3. And that one's number 1. So if you notice, there's 2 number 1s on this one, okay? The reason they do that is because when you put a piston rod assembly in the engine, this cap has to be orientated the correct way on an engine. So they mark both the cap and the rod with the same number. That way when you put it on the same side here, so when you put it back together, this is the way it came apart. So you know which way this cap needs to be orientated on the rod. If you put it on backwards, you'll blow up an engine in less than 5 minutes. It'll destroy it. It'll throw a bearing, and I've heard of guys, putting a hole in the side of the block because the bearing goes out and they're revving it up. They're trying to break it in at 2,500 RPMs, and it throws a rod and knocks a hole in the block because they put the rod cap on backwards. So that's very important that you know how to do that. And again, the mains are the same way. Now, if you look at this main cap, it's got an arrow on it, okay? And normally there's some punch marks down here. I'm not sure. That's a 3, and this is a number 2 cap, so that's a 1. I don't know why they did that. That's kind of weird. But that may not be. A lot of times people will take a punch and they'll punch marks, 1, 2, 3 here, but it's really not necessary, or 2 I should say, because obviously this one's number 1 and that one's number 2. But a lot of times guys will take a punch and they'll punch, like on this one here, there'll be 2 punch marks in the cap itself to let you know that's number 2 cap. So, but they aren't on this thing. They may have line bored it, and so it may not matter. Or maybe after they line board it, they just kept everything together and they knew where they went. A lot of times guys they'll put them on the table in order that they go in the engine, They'll set them on the table that way, so when they put the engine together, they're correct. But of course the caps, there's a lot more of them. There's 8 of them. There's only 5 main bearings. So the caps, they mark them, on the cap and the rod. But anyhow, that's kind of neat. So that's how you tell which way the cap is orientated. You always want the arrows pointing toward the front of the engine. So that's good to know. All right, so let's pull a rod cap and a main cap off this thing and look at the bearings, because I'm curious what they look like with low miles on this thing. All right, so let's I'll set you guys up here, and we'll zoom you in. I'm going to get right here in the front of the engine so you can see what I'm doing there. All right, trying to get you as close as I can. All right, let me get a wrench here. I got a wrench here, and a ratchet, I should say. And let's take number one off. What the heck? It's right here on top, right in the front. These are torqued 45 foot-pounds, so I'll have to retorque it. No big deal. You can take rod bolts off and retorque them. I think it's up to 5 times a piece. And I'm sure probably as much money as they spent on this engine, balancing it, and putting all the parts in it they put in it. I'm sure they probably put new rod bolts in them, so this is only the second time they've been taken off and put back on. All right, so we'll take that off. Let me get a hammer and we'll tap on that. All right, let's tap this. And just gently tap it. You don't have to beat on it. See that cap pop loose? You should be able, there you go, slide it right off. All right, let's take a look at it. Let's clean it up. There we go. So bearings in an engine are copper and they're overlaid with lead. So the lead absorbs any kind of impurities or dirt that's that might get in the oil. And you know, there's a couple scuff marks on this bearing, but it looks fantastic. There's no copper showing on it. That's perfectly fine. So I'm happy with this. It looks good. Now let's flip it over and look at the back side of it, because there's information on the back we want to know. So first thing you see the 020. That means that this crankshaft, at least the rod bearings, have been turned 20 thousandths undersized on this. So not oversized, undersized. The cylinders, the pistons are oversized. The bearings are undersized. So they turn 20 thousandths off the crank and put a thicker bearing in there, okay? So we know it's got 20 thousandths undersized rod bearings, and oh, look at that. That makes me happy. Oh, let me get it up here. Clevite 77. I've used those in my engines again for a long time, and they are really good bearings, one of the best in the market, and I recommend those in any engine that I put together. So yeah, I'm happy. That's a good bearing right there. And one thing you want to remember, if you're putting an engine together, you always want to clean the surface that you're in your cap and your rod, of course, and you want to clean the back of your bearing. You don't want any oil or dirt or residue to get in there, because if it gets in there and you put it together and there's oil or residue in there, it could cause a high spot on your bearing and cause your bearing to fail prematurely. So, and you normally oil these, but there's oil on the crankshaft. So, and I'm gonna put oil in the motor and everything. Anyhow, I mean, this motor's been ran. If it was new, I'd put some kind of lubricant on this, but it's fine the way it is. I've got to make sure the one here, see that one? I got to make sure that one there lines up with this one when I put it back. So I want to put it back like that, and I can tap it back in place. We'll put the bolts back on, or the nuts I should say, onto the rod bolts, and just want to make sure I'm putting them on there the right. Well, I don't think it really matters which way they go. I don't know. Let me look and see if this one. I usually look for like marks on them. Like there's wear marks. See the wear marks on that one? You can see the wear marks where it's rubbed as it been tightened down. So I always try to put them back the same way. Okay. So I'm gonna put that one back like that, and I'm gonna check the other one, so we know those are both good. All right. I'm just gonna snug this up for now, and I will get my torque wrench out here a little bit and torque it down to 45 foot-pounds. And while I got this thing apart, I will double check all these rod main caps. I'll check all the nuts on them, nuts and bolts, to make sure they're all the correct torque. Because I got it apart, I mean, I'm sure they are. This engine's got 3,000 miles on it, 4,000 miles on it. So if they weren't the right torque, I would have known by now, because it would have came apart. But anyhow, I'm going to check them now just to be sure. All right, now let's take take a main cap off, and I guess we'll take number 2 off. It's kind of right out here in the open where you guys can see it. And it's torqued to 65 foot-pounds. So it's a little harder. It's a 1/2-inch wrench on it. And usually my main caps are pretty easy to get off. Usually, I probably should have a rag here because they're probably going to have oil on them. Yep, see all that oil on them. Wipe that off. Set that over there. And the bolts, you can take the bolts and just throw them in a pan. You just sell them over. It doesn't matter where they go. They can go anywhere, so it's not critical where you keep them at. But I'll put them back in the same spot just because they were already there. Okay, here's the main cap. And again, look at that. Well, that's interesting. We got a little bit of wear on this cap, as you can see. We got a little bit of copper showing on that one, so I probably should replace that bearing, which I will. That's definitely got some dirt in it. So it had something in it at one point, but we'll get a new bearing and put it in there. No big deal. Sometimes you find that, but again, this is a low mileage engine. I'm gonna take another cap off and look at it, just out of curiosity, see what it looks like. And I'll show you what the crankshaft looks like when I'm done. All right. The crankshaft, I don't see really anything on it, so there probably was some dirt in there that got in there and, you know, marred up the bearing. No big deal. As long as they aren't all that way anyhow. But we'll find out. Take the first one off here and look at it. I'm just going to set this back on there temporarily. You can use the bolts too to wiggle it. I don't know if you guys, am I in the right position here? No. Sorry. If you got a cap that's stuck, you can lift the bolts up like that and wiggle it and it'll come loose. All right, and this one's still not coming loose, so I'm just gonna kind of tap on it. There it goes. Okay, take the bolts out, wipe the oil off of them. I'll set them there. Okay. All right, let's look at this bearing. Ah, there we go. That's a whole lot better. Yep. And that bearing looks a lot better. It's got a little scuffing on it, but it ain't bad. Apparently somebody, probably whoever, when they first started this motor, had a little bit of dirt in it, but I mean, the bearing's fine. I'm not afraid to use this bearing, so it'll be good. You know, you can see plenty of lead on there, so it's okay. So that's good. We just got one bearing, and I probably should check the others. I'm probably going to do that. Obviously, this journal here is not hurt, so we'll put it back together. I'm curious if this bearing here, if the bottom side looks like the top. Hopefully not. I don't know if I can even tell, to tell you the truth, without pulling the crankshaft. But anyhow, no big deal. All right, so let's look at the journal. So there's the bearing journal. A little closer, aren't I? So, and again, I don't know if you know this, but you take your fingernail and you just rub it across, and if it doesn't catch on anything, then you're fine. And I'm not catching on anything on this bearing. It's not catching at all. So that journal looks fine. There's nothing wrong with that. So basically, I mean, to tell you the truth, I could probably leave this bearing in there because it's just right in the middle that it's got that groove. I guess it'd provide it with a little extra oiling. Probably wouldn't hurt it at all. But yeah, I mean, it's not terrible. If it was all the way across, you know, showing copper or had a lot more scratches and gouges in, I'd worry about it. But that's not that bad. But you know, I'll probably just go buy a new bearing and put in. I mean, it's a 20 thousandths oversized bearing, undersized bearing, I should say. They're not hard to find. So, and let me see if I can get this. Let me back this phone back out first. There we go. All right. There we go. I can get that bearing out of there one-handed. I say it's 20 thousandths. I was talking about the rod bearing. let's see, let's look at this. All right, so this one here, yeah, that one's a 20 thousandths undersized bearing as well. And I'm assuming it's also, yep, it's also Clevite 77. So again, I don't really like that. That's a pretty good gouge on there, but it didn't hurt the crank, so no big deal. We'll fix that and move on down the road. I got to go to the machine shop and have the heads done. I might ask them if they have a single bearing, maybe they can sell me. But I know that one's good, and I'm going to pull the rest of these off and check them and make sure they're all okay. I'm sure they probably are. But yeah, no big deal on that. So that's kind of a surprise, but you know, again, we still got a good engine here. Nothing was hurt other than that bearing, bottom bearing shell. So I don't know if the top one's okay or not, but I'm assuming it probably is. But I can take all the main caps loose, and I can pry up on the crankshaft and slide that bearing out and look at it and then put it back in if it's okay. So I may only need half a bearing. I don't know. We'll see. But anyhow, so that's what that looks like, okay? So that was a little bit of a surprise for me, but again, it's not the end of the world. Still got a really good engine here. I'm really happy. And Bo, I didn't know this engine was balanced, so you got a nice deal here on this engine, yeah. Whoever built this engine definitely was expecting to, you know, use it maybe in a racing application, or a more extreme, I should say more extreme, maybe a street application, you know, high performance application, because obviously it's had some work done to it that I wasn't expecting when I opened it up. And the pistons, they'll do the same thing when they balance some rods. They'll weigh the pistons, but if these are Speed Pro pistons, a lot of times when you buy pistons from, you know, a high performance manufacturer, they're already balanced from the factory. But a lot of times, if they're not, they'll weigh them, and again, they'll find the lightest one, and they'll shave off a little bit of aluminum somewhere on the piston to make them all match the same as far as weight goes. So we know it's been balanced. We know it's oh wait, that's the wrong one. I'm just going to tighten that up for now, lightly. I know this bearing is okay, so I don't have to worry about it. I'll check the others. I'm sure they're fine as well. Sometimes this happens, you know, no big deal. All right. Didn't hurt the crank, so that's all that matters. Glad for that, because it's already 20 under. Okay. All right. So, now let's flip this thing over, and we'll pull the timing cover off. See what we got there. Oh, and it's got a one-piece gasket, which they started making these for even the older small block Chevys, which is really nice. One-piece gasket here, so that works really well, and it doesn't leak nearly as bad as the old cork ones did. But I mean, if you get good quality, no matter whether you use torque or this one, whether you use cork or that one, the good quality gaskets, they usually work really well anyhow. That's why I like the blue stripes. Okay, let's flip it over. Oh. All right, put my bolt in there so it doesn't turn on me. Okay, now we'll take off the timing cover. Okay. See what we got under there. Is it a plain Jane single row stock chain? Is it a double row timing chain? I don't know. I would think that with this application, as much money as they spent on this thing, that it would be a double row chain. Because that is what would give you the best performance as far as if you got a high performance engine, you know. Okay, trying to get in here and get these bolts out. All right. couple more here, and we will see what we got. Okay. One more. All right. You guys ready? Double row or single row? What do you guys think? Let's see. Ta-da! Oh, crap. You guys seeing that? Wow, check that out. Holy crap. Look at that. Here, let me show you. That's a freaking gear drive, man. That is cool. I never expected to see that in this engine. Of course, I should have known. It made kind of a whining sound when it was running. I didn't think anything about it. I thought it was a power steering pump because had power steering on it. So, but look at that. It's a freaking gear drive. That is freaking awesome. Those are way better than the chain because there's no slack in them. There's no play in them. And the chain can't wear out, of course. So that is cool. I love that, man. Wow, Bo. You got a deal here, buddy. That is nice. Really nice. I love it. Man, that's cool. So we got, hold on a second here. Get this thing up where you guys can kind of see what's going on. All right. There we go. So we got 350 Chevy, 2-bolt main engine. It's been balanced and it's got a gear drive, cam gears in it, high performance cam. I don't know what the specs is on the cam. I'm not going to pull it out and see. I know it had a lope to it when I ran it before. So, you know, it's not like extreme, but it's a good street cam. New pistons, Speed Pro pistons. The heads look real good other than the studs. And actually, I had a guy ask me on one of my videos. He said, "Why don't you just put screw-in studs in it?" Well, you know, I got to thinking about it, and you know, seeing all this high performance stuff on this engine, it makes sense to do that. And I actually was looking online last night, even before I took this apart. I thought, well, I should at least look online, and you can actually buy a set of screw-in studs that they don't take the guide plates. You just take the pullouts, the press-in studs out. You pull them out, and you run a tap down through the hole, and then you put these screw-in studs in there, and they replace the press-in studs without being the high performance version that takes the guide plates for the push rods. So, and they're real cheap. I haven't called the machine shop yet. I called them about pinning these studs on these heads, and it was like $50. But I'm going to call them and see what actually it would cost to go ahead and pull the studs out and thread them and put threaded studs in there. I think it's probably a good idea. So anyhow, what do you guys think? Think it's a good motor? I think it's a great motor. Obviously that one bearing, I have a concern with that, but it didn't hurt the crankshaft. It probably had a piece of dirt or something in there that someone didn't know about, and it scarred the bearing. It's not a terrible thing. The lead layer on the bearing is very thin. It's only a couple thousandths of an inch thick, so it doesn't take a whole lot to gouge that to the point where the copper's showing. And it's not a deep, super deep gouge. It's just a little bit of a gouge. So it probably when they put it together, maybe they had a piece of dirt in there. You got to be careful of that stuff when you put an engine together. So they had a piece of dirt or something in there, and when they started it up, it chewed up that bearing, and the bearing did its job and absorbed whatever it was and didn't hurt the crank. So that's what they're supposed to do. So again, I could probably leave that bearing in there. It wouldn't hurt anything because it's got 99% of it still there. And the dirt's obviously not there because I didn't see it under there. So it's gone. So yeah, it'd probably be fine the way it is, but to do it right, I'm going to go ahead and buy a new bearing. Even if I have to buy a whole set, I'll just buy a whole set and put one bearing in there. Whatever, or maybe I'll buy a whole set and just replace all of them. I don't know. We'll see. But anyhow, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy this video. Like and subscribe to my channel if you want to. Again, I've said this before to a lot of people. I don't do this to try to become famous. I mean, if I did, that'd be fine, but I'm not trying to do that. I like doing this kind of stuff, and I like showing people.
Playing from Dave's S21 Ultra.
Thank you. Thanks for telling me that, Alexa. I appreciate it. Anyhow, hope you guys enjoy my videos, and hope to see you in the future. We're going to keep working on this 48 Chevy truck right here. This one here. I'm going to keep working on that, and it's the blasting guy is supposed to be here. He's supposed to be here tomorrow, but it's going to rain tomorrow here. so he's changed it to Sunday. So we're going to come Sunday, and I'm not sure if I can do it or not, but my brother's supposedly got better internet here, and I'm going to try to live stream some of that sandblasting being done on the truck. So if you're around on Sunday and you want to log into my channel, or you hit the notification button down there and subscribe to my channel, then it'll let you know when I'm online live, and I'll try to live stream, show you guys what it looks like when someone sandblasts a vehicle. And we got this vehicle over here, which is a 64 Triumph Spitfire, and I've been working on that too with my brother. We replaced a whole bunch of metal on it. It was way worse than we thought it was, and I convinced him to do it the right way. And I haven't been videoing it because it takes so much time to do this truck and everything else I'm doing. So I didn't do a lot of videos on it. I did a couple. If you want to see those, I can show those to you. I think I got them. I don't know if I might have erased them already. But anyhow, I'll do a walk around on it Sunday, show you guys what I've done to it, and we'll do a walk around on it before it gets blasted, and we'll take a look at it. So anyhow, thanks again, guys. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching. Talk to you later. Bye.